All right, everyone, that's Lucifer Tim, 33rd degree. Welcome to the Infinite Plane Radio call-in live stream podcast, 833-311-1984. It is Pi Day, Pi Day 2022. It is also the death day of Stephen Hawking. It is also the birthday of Albert Einstein, the two of them both dying at 76. It is also the death day of, was it Galileo? There's some connections here worth looking at because it ties into Pi Day and also just how obsessed with astrology the writers on the world stage are. A lot of interesting world stagery going on at the moment here. So yes, happy Pi Day, happy death anniversary to Stephen Hawking, happy birthday to Einstein, and also Hawking and Galileo share birthdays with Elvis and Bowie. Don't know if that means anything to you. But the main thing is Pi Day connects these great minds of Einstein, Hawking, and Galileo. All right, Sam asks, what's the difference between a Freemason, Jesuits, and Chabad Lubavitch? I'm confused. Are they the same or do they fight? You know, when I look at the powers that be, I refer to it as the cult of the monolith. It's one God. It's a monotheistic cult, but the God that they deify is not the one that they publicly advertise worshiping, but I would say it's like a hydra with many heads, and that you could do a diagram and you could see just by the template of control and the system of really mass mind control is what we're looking at, but the religious systems all follow the same template. And my contention is that the new corona, the new crown that we all kneel to, that the pandemic was just a way to institute a new religion that replaces all the old ones but has the same exact template. And again, I think the key thing is control. It's not really about a who done it, but a what is it. So the modern mind may not accept sin, so they can go do whatever they want. They can behave like heathens and they don't have to worry about repercussions. And they don't believe in God's judgment, so they're not worried about floods. Well, wait, nope. Science comes in and says, oh, viruses, socially distance yourselves. They use the pandemic to affect a puritanical revision of our society. They got all the godless people to behave. Now they're a bunch of church ladies. And if you don't wear your dirty sock religious garment on your mouth, you're a heathen to them. And no, they don't believe in the flood god or this idea that our collective wickedness will trigger his wrath, but they sure believe in global warming. What's the difference? There is no difference. All right, we're joined by David Hoaxum, Garrett, Portal Complex, Frank Murr, Rocco Calzone, Thirst for Truth, The Missing, Tech Inc., Kevin Mooring, Evil Coyote, David Pryor, and I'll be passing out wrenches here shortly, probably right after. So if you say anything at all, you'll get a wrench handed to you. And the wrench is more than just a way to maintain order in the chat room. It's actually an NFT. It's a non-fungible token, and there is a limited number that I can mint. So when I die, no one gets any more, and the value, priceless, hard to say. We could do a little Melania Trump style bid washing, get them worth about 150,000? Is that how much she put into her own? Yeah, Melania Trump buys her own NFTs in order to inflate the price, as though we can't read receipts. Joined by Linda Curtis, X322, Linda Curtis, Living in Sin, Clockwork 113, Maxwell Cooper, John Cordone, Once Upon a Penguin, Osher. All right, Echo Charlie's here. Okay, let's continue going through the news today. And again, I'm going to open up phones. And if you want to ask any questions, 24/7, 833-311-1984. Tominoid says that the wrenches are fake. Here's what the wrenches mean. So the wrench is the little symbol next to your name when you've become a moderator. It means that you can remove people who aren't on the same sheet, so they don't have anything to add. It gives you the ability also to post links, which I encourage. I think we have to build a network, and there has to be outgoing links all the time. And then also, the wrench itself is a symbol of our mass media deconstruction operation in progress here. So in a way, it's like a spanner in the works, a wrench in the machinery of the matrix, but it's also a tool to carefully and methodically deconstruct the great lies of our time. It's not a hammer like the commies used to smash things down. It's not a sickle to cut throats, or, it's not a symbol of harvesting. To me, it's more of a symbol of the artful deconstruction of the great deceptions of our time, the mainstream media religion, The one that comes out of the black box, the black monolith of Saturn in every house, the TV, now in every pocket, your smartphone screen. That is your altar to Saturn, and it's conveniently pocket-sized. Wait till they have that thing implanted. I was actually saying that at the CVS. I was picking up some groceries, and I had to take out this card and then that card, and I'm like, man. I was like, I can't wait until we get all this stuff just embedded into a single microchip and just put it in our palm so you just wave your hand and it bills all the appropriate accounts. Dumb S says, my phone is at 33%, might experience a blackout in 42 minutes. Sounds like Illuminati code behind something rather mundane. But there is a lot of Illuminati code, and we've been decoding a lot of stuff. Let me go ahead and go over this. So, on March the 4th, the day that the CGI space junk hit the back of the CGI moon, and there was a CGI explosion, and a new CGI crater that we won't see until we cough up several $billions of our hard-earned tax money, so they can build a bridge to cross this CGI crater we will never see. But anyway, on that date, 3/4, Batman came out. And on that date, Joker, Sarnath, as in the Joker, the Boston bomber, well, his death penalty was reinstated. So I'm like, Batman and Joker seems very world stagey. But if you look into it, you'll find that the Batman and Joker dialectic is used in many of our psyops. This is a reoccurring theme. And it really became obvious with the Dark Knight Rises shooting, but more significantly, the iconography has tracked along with the news. It's actually kind of prophetic, very prophetic. They use the bat as a phoenix. What does that mean? Well, burn down, build back better, the phoenix. That's their formula. And the bat was the catalyst. So the phoenix is represented as an eagle in America. Your American eagle is a phoenix. The bat here is a phoenix. The dove that brings the olive branch to Noah after God says he's not going to kill everybody again. Yeah, that's just another phoenix. Same symbol. But let me go ahead and go over the newsletter from a few days ago, and then we'll get into the main topic of the day. Well, one of the main topics, the Coriolis effect, which we'll get into here in a second. So on the 11th, we celebrated the second hoax anniversary of the official declaration of the pandemic. 2 weeks turned into 2 years with Putin finishing the job. So let me point this out. COVID cured the world of radical Islamic terrorism. Putin cured the world of COVID. What's going to cure the world of Putin? Aliens? I actually have a poll, and we'll go over that poll here shortly. And he stopped the whole everyone has AIDS now thing that was trending. I was like, everyone has AIDS now? Some of us still have our Omicron decorations up, and they've already gone into HIV/AIDS season. They were like AIDS and COVID are the same thing, and Prince Philip says everybody has to get an AIDS test now. You know it's all about money, by the way. And I also think something else too about this whole, this is just a side note, but since we're talking about the bat virus, I happen to think that it's a big scam. That the whole thing has always been a scam, but that it is literally a way to reintroduce into society the idea of this contaminant that only the priesthood can get rid of. And that until you've had your own contaminants removed, you're assumed to be contaminated. So it's a way of removing the presumption of innocence. So now we have the presumption of infection. So it's a change in dynamics. It's a step back. So we've been regressing as a society, just pointing this out. Okay, so anyway, let's go on here. I was also pointing this out too. So COVID made everyone a potential terrorist, and it brought back a need for contact tracing. So instead of contact tracing radical Islamic terrorist mind viruses, now they're tracing the flu variant. And also notice how the Q-tip up the nose is sort of a replacement for the waterboarding as far as detecting either virus. The idea of an invasion into the nasal cavity in order to extract the virus is true for both the virus of Islamic terror and the COVID virus. Only the PCR test, the Q-tip test, is voluntary. So I think what you're establishing here is that when you voluntarily go for this thing, you're submitting to the inquisitor and you're buying into the premise. But interestingly, and this is what just occurred to me the other day, I was thinking about all those people who wear their masks in the shower. Because I still go to the store and the mandate's been lifted and there are still people with masks on. And like I said the other day, I will let the door at the post office slam in your face if you're wearing a mask because my arms aren't 6 feet long. And if you're wearing a mask, I assume you want social distance. So I'm respecting your right to a socially distanced environment by not helping you at the door. If you want chivalry from me, you have to show some face skin. No, I literally saw tears. I saw some crisis actor with a mask, and I slammed the door in his face at the post office, because clearly he didn't want to be helped. And someone else in front of me, to make a point, went and helped him. And I swear I saw a tear, single tear, got absorbed by his mask, by the dirty sock on his face. Security blanket, disgusting. Portal Complex says, fake nuke under Project Bluebeam to initiate climate hoax. Yeah, on that note, if they do bring in Climate Geddon, it's got to be this year. Global warming's 33 years old. Okay, so anyway, here's what I was saying though. So I see these crisis actors walking around with masks on, and I'm thinking, they wear their masks in the shower. So wearing a mask in the shower, I was just thinking, isn't that dangerous? Isn't that just like self-waterboarding? And the way that you get information from the terrorists who are reluctant to give it up is you put a rag over their face and you dump water on it. It's called waterboarding. This technique, it's the water rag technique. So you put a rag over a face, over a captive's face. You dump water on the rag. And this will cause them to confess. It's such a horrible experience. So my question is, you got these self-waterboarding people in their showers with their masks, and that's how I know the PSYOP was a complete success. Self-waterboarding, self-admitted terrorists everywhere. Joined by Crater Earth USA, Tim and Vic 131, Shannon Jones, and Penguin Doctor. Penguin Doctor says, I have multiple online medical survey companies sending me surveys on HIV in my practice. There's been an influx of HIV/AIDS medical articles popping up in these last few months. Right. Well, you have some insight here. They know something. They don't waste paper. It's bad for the environment. If they're sending you propaganda, there's a point to it. So anyway, yes, you have the self-waterboarding, completely psychologically traumatized population. And now if you look at the screen, you have an image of Batman in front of the burning penguin. I'm sorry, I saw a penguin in the chat. A burning bat phoenix. A penguin phoenix would be a pretty good concept. I've seen a few by X-Pac. I should bring them out. We have a penguin design on the podcast. If you search for Infinite Plane Radio, that design is by X-Pac. He's done a lot of our work. And it's got the penguin with the lightning bolt wings. But anyway, here, just look at the Batman logo. And is that not shaped exactly like the hole created by the CGI plane or the bombs? Like they put the bombs in the building in such a way that it would resemble the bat. And I'm suggesting this is intentional. So, just to bring you up on this whole thing with the Batman and Joker thing, the bomber at the Boston bombing was called the Joker. His name is Jokar, sounds like Joker, but they called him the Joker affectionately in the media. So you have this dialectic where the Joker, or the chaos agent, the patsy, the super spreader, is on the loose. That's chaos. And then the order is represented by the Batman. So also note, the Joker movie came out in 2019 and it had an uprising of masked Jokers. So again, Joker is code for the chaos agent. Patsies, bowl cut shooters, super spreaders. Batman is your police state response. Batman is the medical tyranny. It's the order to the chaos. It's also noteworthy here, again, that the Joker movie was followed by the 2020 Summer of Chaos. And this year, we just had the Batman movie come out. It's just a couple weeks ago. So I'm thinking, are we going to see some kind of blowback? If the Joker represents the left, the Antifa, the BLM, the ones disrupting the established order, burning the police precincts, etc., then the Batman would represent the right, the Proud Boys, the Western chauvinists, and specifically, I would say, the white nationalist domestic violent extremists. In other words, feds dressed up like DVEs, domestic violent extremists. And also, this is something you have to note too, is that the QAnoners have long said that Trump is Batman, on the world stage. In fact, Batman even called himself, I'm sorry, Trump called himself the Batman to a child on his Air Force One. The child asked, "Are you Batman?" He said yes. He impersonated Batman. Okay, a couple of other things. This is from the newsletter, which you can get at timosman.blog. Jussie Smollett didn't kill himself. Jussie Smollett has been sentenced to less than 6 months in jail. And I want to point out that you shouldn't feel vindicated seeing a crisis actor getting caught, because Jussie Smollett's are the norm and not the exception. In other words, the media is not in the business of busting crisis actors. That's just not what they do. So what you're seeing here is an operation intended to create the illusion that the MSM doesn't stage dramatic news spectacles, specifically hate crimes. More than 66% of hate crimes are debunked. Generally, it's the victim that's also the perpetrator of the hoax. I would posit that the other 33% are just not exposed as hoaxes. That it's almost 100%. Jussie Smollett is a red herring. And what's more, after the attempted lynching in February of 2019, before it was discovered to be a hoax, when everybody thought it was real, he had a performance. He got up on stage, he's a singer, dancer, whatever, and he told the audience, "I'm the gay Tupac." I'm like, that's weird. So anyway, then it was exposed as a hoax. So now there he is, he's having the sentence read to him, and he keeps shouting at the court, "I'm not suicidal," and he said it 8 times. So I'm thinking, maybe we're looking at some foreshadowing. That's kind of what I'm thinking here, that maybe he's going to have some kind of untimely death. Maybe he will be Epsteined. That's what I'm thinking. So again, Jussie Smollett didn't kill himself. We shall see. Again, my point though also is that he's not going to a real jail. He's going to a fake one, just like all the other crisis actor patsies do. He's not actually going anywhere, obviously. In real world news, Grimes, the not quite wife, but the one of the, what would you call her? They're not married yet, but Grimes has revealed the secret birth of her baby with Elon Musk. So the first baby was Yucky. So you got Musk, Grimes, Yucky. Well, now they have a new baby, but this one is born through a surrogate. And by surrogate, at first I assumed 3D printer. But now it looks like that Elon Musk and Grimes have had another baby with the assistance of, technical assistance, I'm assuming, of Chelsea Manning, the American activist and whistleblower formerly known as Bradley Manning when she was an Army intelligence analyst in Iraq. So yes, Chelsea Manning, now Bradley Manning, may be the mother-father surrogate of Grimes and Musk's new baby named Exa Dark. All right, let me go through some comments here. Finbar says, "Great newsletter, Tim." Yeah, thanks. And there will be more. It was actually intended to be daily. All right. I'm going to go through some voicemails as well. There's so much to go through today, and I don't want to make this into an incredibly dense data dump, but it might actually become that. Let's just keep going down the Penguin Trail here. Okay, the next one. This is a clip where, we've been talking about Roland Emmerich's crappy movie Moonfall. Must watch crappy movie. I mean, these movies are bad, but that's part of what we do here. I had someone in the comments asking for a refund because I sent him out to go watch, or I didn't send him out. I suggested he go watch Moonfall. So much we can do
if we work together as a world. Remember that?
He said the movie was terrible, and it's like, well, that's the point. Apollo 11 was terrible. 9/11 was terrible. COVID-19 was terrible. These are all terrible movies. That's not a reason not to watch them. Mystery Science Theater 3000. You have a group of people caught, it's a robot, a man, and something else. But these individuals are trapped. They're captive to some alien, a very sadistic alien, and they're a captive audience. So the alien forces them to watch bad science fiction movies in order to drive them crazy. So I look at what we're doing here as very much like Mystery Science Theater 3000. Because we are a captive audience. We don't know if they're aliens, but we are a captive audience to some kind of sadists in high places. And they do make us watch bad science fiction movies to make us crazy. And those of us who haven't been driven mad by the bad science fiction are called conspiracy theorists or flat earthers or whatever else they can come up with. But anyway, in the bad science fiction movie Moonfall, the world is saved by this 33-year-old scientist who plays the role of like a modern Noah. Anyway, my point being, the director of that movie, which Moonfall, came out just before the moon got hit by a piece of CGI space junk. No coincidences. Moonfall's director is the director of Independence Day. Well, Independence Day was about aliens invading the earth and causing us all to unite. And when people saw 9/11, their frame of reference for buildings falling was Independence Day. So I'm suggesting, and I have been suggesting, that Moonfall, and Don't Look Up and other movies like it, but Moonfall in particular, that this movie was there, it's out there right now, to prepare the public for what's to come. That Roland Emmerich is reprising his role as PSYOP prep, as he did with Independence Day with Moonfall. So just as 9/11 followed Independence Day, I'm expecting not the moon to fall, but some kind of space war PSYOP to come. Now listen to this. This is Hillary Clinton talking about Roland Emmerich's film Independence Day and how we should all behave as though reality were like that movie.
There's so much we can do if we work together as a world. Remember that movie Independence Day where invaders were coming from outer space and the whole world was united against the invasion? Well, why can't we be united on behalf of our planet? And that's what I want to do, to get more and more people to understand that and be involved to protect our...
Now she's saying we should use the alien threat as a metaphor for climate change. Now I think that the idea is the same thing. It could be meteors, it could be asteroids, whatever. It could be aliens, it could be climate change. It has to be a universal threat. And in 2020, they brought out the convid for this express purpose. And there's a lot to suggest here that Independence Day also has predicted programming for this internal alien invasion. All right, let us continue.
Our environment.
Now we have friendly
Maybe the only way to unite this incredibly divided world of ours. They're out there. We better think of how all the differences among people on Earth would seem small if we felt threatened by a space invader. That's the whole theory of independence.
You're right. You're right.
Everybody gets together and makes nice and,
What a weird thing to hope for. Like, I hope something really bad happens to all of us so we can all be friends. Like, under duress. Like, I don't know. How about the aliens come down and they cure diseases or something? Why do they have to come down and force us into a kind of almost an unwitting unity just because we have to? Okay, here's Reagan.
To him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species from another planet outside in the universe. We'd forget all the little local differences that we have.
It's like, no, we wouldn't. If we did have some kind of alien threat and it was game over for humanity, I would not forget my differences. I would be like, okay, now it's time to get even. Well, maybe not like that, but a lot of people would think that way. Listen to this. Tim and Vic says, 2019's Joker, a film which showcased people donning masks and rioting, premiered 8/3/1, exactly 6 months and 11 days before the WHO declared the global health pandemic. Yeah, and you have to look at the character Joker, played by Joaquin Phoenix. Again, the symbol of the phoenix used in Batman, the bat as the phoenix. A guy named Phoenix representing the instigator of the revolution. And the revolution against the police kind of foreshadows the thing with Floyd and Chauvin and BLM. But also, if you throughout the movie, you had all kinds of references to the kill the rich, the communists, the class war. So it's also class warfare. That's why you can find Heath Ledger, who's not dead, Heath Ledger's Joker burning a pyramid of money, saying, "This isn't about the money. We are a higher class of criminal, a different class of criminal." The Joker movie is fascinating. It'd be worth watching and just breaking down the symbolism. Notice all the 1111s on the clock. And the November 11th, after the Joker movie came out, did have Mercury transiting the sun. A few things we could extrapolate from that. There is actually quite a lot, but I just wanted to focus on this. Joaquin Phoenix's name, as it connects to the guy that instigates the revolution, that sparks it. And what's more, before the Joker movie, he was doing these public events. Joaquin Phoenix hanging out with Jane Fonda, Fire Drill Fridays, where he got arrested protesting climate change. So he's fighting climate change. Meanwhile, Tom Hanks is fighting climate change in Australia. And then the COVID thing comes over. So you can see how these agendas merged one into the other. I would also say that the Joker masks that they all wore corresponds to the medical mask. And there may not be a direct connection with Mercury and the medical symbol, the snake climbing the stick, but there is something to the mask, I would say. Joker, in many ways, you could say, is a very mercurial character, was my point. But anyway, everybody putting on the masks and then upsetting the system definitely was predicted in that movie. So this new movie, Batman, probably is foreshadowing whatever's going to come next, the blowback. And that's kind of what I've been expecting. Again, Batman and Joker represent the poles, the duality they play off in the psyops. You see the black and the white checkers, the black and the white pillar, Boaz, Jacob, Batman, Joker. Also worth noting, and it's not hard to find, I think it's episode 66 of the Batman TV show. You find out that Batman is actually the grandson of the guy that started the Skull and Bones Society. And that's in Yale. So we're talking about the symbol of the bat being a Saturnian. Here we go, episode 33 of all episodes. So Batman, Skull and Bones, episode 33. The name of the episode is Fine Finny Friends, which gets you a 666. Kind of like Build Back Better. I mean, so many clever ways that they encode this Phoenix agenda. And by the way, the bat used as a catalyst for a world-destroying, world-crippling pandemic, it's actually a cliche. It didn't start with COVID-19. There are so many movies where that's the case. Anyway, let me continue. Batman, Skull and Bones, episode 33, Fine Finny Friends.
Good idea, this rehearsal. The ladies, such worthy causes. I personally favor Miss Natural Resources. I'd like to make her my own personal charity. All are worthy. Now you can say that again.
And that is Bruce Wayne's grandfather, Mrs. Cooper?
His great-grandfather.
I understand he was tapped for Skull and Bones.
Tapped for it? Sir, he founded Skull and Bones.
He founded Skull and Bones. So is his idea for a bunch of naked initiates to do gross things in a casket, to dig up the skulls of folk heroes like Pancho Villa and Geronimo, to steal license plates with 322s? Sounds like a great guy. Anyway, that was from the original Batman, episode 33, Fine Finny Friends. All right, here is another act horror on the world stage. Ronald Reagan talking about aliens uniting us.
Between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together. Our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish.
Now again, I have to challenge this premise here, that if we had some alien threat, we would all unite. I think the Democrats would side with the aliens. I think the people who are trying to go off the grid would go off the grid. The people who are undecided. I think the far right would think that the aliens are there to, stop the second coming. They'd go to war with the aliens. Like, no, it's just going to cause more chaos. There's no way it would be unifying in any way. We already know this. But they keep bringing this up, and it's like, why? Well, it's foreshadowing. All right, let's go ahead and play a few more clips like this. Again, this idea of a universal threat. It's like, why a threat?
if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war? I think maybe I'd answer it this way.
All right, we'll move on. We live in a bad science fiction universe, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Oh, I want to point this out. This is my most successful tweet to date. It's not an original meme. Great memers imitate, what is it? Picasso actually made this statement. Let me get this right. Because it's not an original meme. Picasso's quoted as saying, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal." And I am a great memer, I could say. My meme tech. Well, anyway, I stole this meme. I appropriated it. Helpy. A selfie to brag about helping. I added onto it, though. My favorite thing since the vaxxie. Because it's kind of the same thing. The vaxxie, you get a picture of yourself getting vaxxed to show that you're helping everybody. You're bragging. Look at me. I'm making a martyr of myself. I'm doing my blood pact with the state. I'm joining with, this is the whole thing. I'm joining the collective. I'm giving up my individuality. It's a brag. And so here you have a new version of it. And this is, again, my favorite thing since the vaxxie. This has been retweeted 88 times. It's been hearted 300 times because it resonates. A lot of people looking at this know something phony, like someone posturing when they see it. Turns out it's a Swedish journalist, and according to Freethinker, she's a terrible person. Her name is Alexandria Pascaldo. Someone else here says, bonus points for having Greta's little sister in the shot. Right. But again, this is a helpy. Just like a selfie, but you just show yourself. Go hug a Ukrainian. All right, let's move on. Okay, we're going through some things on TikTok here that came out. I want to get to the guy who says that the Coriolis effect is demonstrated by sinks. This is what I titled the live stream about how the Coriolis effect is a hoax. So check this out. A lot of people believe that if you're north of the equator, your sink will drain clockwise. If you're south, counterclockwise. If you're on the equator, it'll just sit there, and you got to manually cause it to drain itself. Well, watch this guy this is a TikToker. This is a TikToker, and he says, "Hey, flat earthers, explain this."
Now we're on the Ugandan border, and we're gonna watch these little things here.
So here he is on the Ugandan border, and there's a bowl on each side of the street. And he's going to rotate a petal, like a rose petal, in the middle of it, and then drain some water, and suggest that they're going in opposite directions because of the Coriolis effect, because of the Earth's rotation.
Here, spin water in opposite directions depending on which side of the border we're on. This is the northern hemisphere. There's the equator line, and there's the south.
So southern hemisphere one is spinning counterclockwise. Now if you notice the video, they spun it with their fingers like it's a top. Then he crosses the street, and he does the same thing on the other side to the same effect. And then he puts it gently in the middle on 0-degree latitude. Doesn't give the rose he doesn't give it any spin at all. So this little flower in there is just sitting there. And this is because it's on the equator. So now the TikToker comes out, and he gives us these facial expressions like his mind has been blown. He holds on to his head. He clutches his temple. He fills up his cheeks with air. He rolls his eyes. He's just like mind blown. Wow. Like he's just really taken aback by this science. Blinded by science here. Well, I want to point this out. You better check Snopes, Glober. Because Snopes has already debunked this. This is not a thing. Does the Coriolis effect determine which way the water drains down a drain? This is one of the most prominent scientific myths. It's false. Because the Earth is a globe spinning on an invisible axis, a point at its equator will make a circuit of 25,000 miles in the space of a day. But any point not on the equator will make a shorter round trip. The closer that point is to either of the poles, the shorter its trip will be. So this difference in speed results in the Coriolis force, an effect that imparts a twist to largest events happening that are away from the equator, specifically cyclones. So this is talking about big events like cyclones, weather. But now listen to this. Although the twisting effect of the Coriolis is real, it influences large things, the movement of air masses. It's also claimed that it spirals down to drains in different parts of the world. However, the effect is so small, and this is from Snopes, so it's credible. Quote, the effect is so small, it plays no role in determining the direction water rotates as it exits a draining sink or toilet. It only produces measurable effects over huge distances and long periods of time, neither of which applies to the typical terrestrial bathroom. Sinks drain in the directions they do because of the way water is directed into them or pulled from them. That's all it is. And what's more, this trick has been exposed. This is quite literally a magic trick. Slate.com did a piece on it, and I found a few pretty interesting articles about how much of what we think of as science is actually just basic magic show types of tricks. Little sleight of mind, a false premise. But no, it does not, in fact, does not, the Coriolis effect does not affect your drain, either way. So that guy that had his mind blown, what of that then? You know, here he is, now a witness to the spinning of the ball, so he can go tell his friends. Take that, flat earthers. I'm willing to bet that this guy is Mandela affected. He'll say that he recalls Timmy falling down the well, and that he remembers Ed McMahon handing out big checks. That he's got it via his inherited genetic memory from his parents, because these are all things that, of course, didn't happen in his lifetime. All right, let's continue. Tech Inc. says that Joaquin is pronounced Jokin. The Phoenix, Joaquin Phoenix. There's a rumor that his brother, River Phoenix, didn't actually die. Another death faker. That he came back like a phoenix. Came back as Mark Dice, right-wing provocateur. Which would make sense when you look at the duality. Batman, Joker, left-wing, Joaquin Phoenix, climate change hysteric, plays the Joker, burn the system. Right-wing, Mark Dice, right-wing agitator, but he's also a big believer in Trump. So you have that left-right thing with these two brothers. This is some recent news. Has to do with the split up above. U.S. astronaut to ride Russian spacecraft home during tensions. Mark Vanda High has made it through a year in space, but now faces his trickiest assignment yet. Riding a Russian capsule back to Earth in the midst of deepening tensions between the countries. So he's abandoning ship. All right, more. This is from Wired.com. If you want to read this article, I'll put a link on my minds. But why magicians are a scientist's best friend. This isn't actually a pretty good article here, and it has to do with trust and a false premise and the illusions that can be fed to you, and the danger of really just assuming that appearances don't deceive, that you can trust what you see because it's on a screen, that it's been vetted. A few other things here. We're looking through my Discord server. We were looking at the symbolism behind a few things, specifically the tattoos on Pete Davidson. So let's get into Pete Davidson really quick here. So if you didn't know, Pete Davidson, the guy who's dating Kanye or Kardashian, Kim Kardashian, Pete Davidson is part of this whole PSYOP entertainment complex in a big way. His father died on 9/11 in the towers. So let's talk about that for a moment. Pete Davidson, born on 11/16, November the 16th, is going to space with Jeff Bezos on the 23rd of this month. So in about a week and 2 days. How Pete Davidson has honored his father who died on 9/11. Again, the significance here, 9/11 was a big ritual, mega ritual. So you're looking at a Burning Man, a sacrifice. Not a real event, that's kind of beside the point, but the ritual itself took his father. That matters in this bigger picture because he's now going to space. And we keep talking about this space 9/11 to come and this build up to it. And I believe we're getting somewhere now. Pete Davidson honored his father who died in the 9/11 terror attack. Now here he is with his then fiance. At the time, you have, right now he's with Kim Kardashian, but he was with Ariana Grande. And the significance here, she was recently in Don't Look Up, the movie about the comet coming to hit the Earth. Now, this is also another tie-in. He's going up in Jeff Bezos' dong rocket. You know, Jeff Bezos, Dr. Evil. Well, the rocket represents this Tower of Babel. It represents this trip from Earth to the heavens that we're taking. The one world, one language, the internet, one mission. This is the Tower of Babel of our time. The richest man in the world took a trip on the anniversary of the moon landing, the Apollo 11. He took a trip, left at 9:11 a.m. to space, or to the edge of space, in this tower. And this is very symbolic because he's the richest man in the world. King Bezos, Amazon, A to Z, Tower of Babel contains it all. And what's more, he's been pictured frequently on his mega yacht. The significance here, of course, is the mega yacht represents the Titanic, the Tower of Babel. It's a representation of the West that's about to have a comeuppance as it confronts climate change, or whatever it is it's confronting. And Don't Look Up, the comet hitting the Earth is just a metaphor for climate change. The reason they used Leonardo DiCaprio is because you associate him with the Titanic. So here he is in this movie warning the world about an iceberg in space, a comet, and the greedy scientists, the greedy capitalists corrupt the scientists, and instead of deflecting the thing, they mine it. Doesn't work, destroys the Earth. That's the whole point. If we go into space to mine it for wealth, we're going to destroy the world itself. The Earth cannot sustain trillionaires, and that's where we're headed. That's why they keep showing you the images of Jeff Bezos on his mega yacht. It's to make this association. So it is noteworthy here that he is now going up to space on Jeff Bezos' rocket. Again, he was with Ariana Grande, who also sings songs for NASA, and then she was part of that Manchester bombing. Now, these are just a few clues, but we're getting somewhere with this. So just follow along here. Want to point this out. He showed off his tattoos in a Instagram or an instant message. I guess it was a cell phone message to Kanye that went public. So we've been looking at his tattoos. So here's a picture of Pizza Davidson, and I call him Pete Davidson. He's with SNL. A lot of Pizzagate stuff around this guy. And if you look at his tattoos, two things I want to draw your attention to. One, you have a skull with a big brain mass on the back. And then next to that is the number 93. So the significance here. The skull head is from the movie Mars Attacks. And the number 93, whatever he thinks it means or whatever he says it means, 93 is one of the main number symbols in the Thelemic cult. It represents this new age, the age of Horus, who's the Egyptian Mars. So the fact that he's got a 93 on there next to Mars Attacks, I would say, is very significant here because the communist takeover, the takeover by COVID, the lockdowns, the climate change lockdowns to come, Agenda 23, the Green World Order, all of this is the new age. And it's the age of Mars or Horus. These things are the same. They're actually using the space age to Trojan horse the entire world into adopting this new sustainable world order as though it's progress when no, it's actually quite the opposite. But anyway, the fact that he has a 93 tattooed on his chest next to the Mars attacks might be significant. Also worth noting, he died in SNL, where Musk was hosting it. He died on Saturday Night Live in a skit where he goes to Mars. And I'll play that clip. But he goes to Mars, and as a sacrifice for all mankind and everybody's watching, he has his head explode. Does it implode? No, it explodes. So I think it's noteworthy here, too, that his father is a Burning Man. Kanye West, his antagonist at the moment, set himself on fire on the Burning Man anniversary at the first Dawn Day event. So you have Kanye West as a Burning Man. So I'm seeing a pattern emerge here. Now again, let me play this really quick, because there's something coming. And again, just follow along with these clues and you'll see where I'm leading with this. Let me bring this up. This is from Inside Job. Inside Job is a show on
The Coast Guard
Netflix.
said they can tow your yacht into shore. I got a better plan. Look. Is that a...
So this is from Inside Job, the episode where the flat earthers hijack Jeff Bezos' mega yacht so they can force him to take them to the edge of the earth. Now, in this episode, inexplicably, a kraken, of all things, rises up from the ocean to swallow his mega yacht. Now again, look at the yacht as a symbol of the West, Western chauvinism, the Titanic, and the kraken is the thing that's going to break the system. It's the crack in the system. Is it global warming? Is it some other form of a schism? We'll see. But anyway, check this clip out.
Kraken? Hell yes. I'm about to collect on my yacht insurance policy.
Hey, has anyone seen Jeff Bezos?
Is the fight over, guys? This is why I don't allow bathroom breaks!
So there's Jeff Bezos being eaten by a kraken, and his boat is taken down. Again, what is the symbol here? I think the kraken, which, if you haven't followed it, the kraken story started with the Seattle Kraken was announced in July of 2020, and right after, the kraken was being talked about by all the QAnoners. Sidney Powell's the kraken. They're releasing the kraken. She'll overturn the election. And then Hunter Biden's crack pipe became a main issue. If Hunter Biden's crack pipe photos get out and get a wide enough distribution, Biden will lose. So you had the kraken, the crack pipe guy, and then Sidney Powell steps aside and Mike Lindau, the crack addict, takes over the election overturning process. But the reoccurring theme here has been about the schism, the crack in society, the crack in the Liberty Bell, cracks in the ISS, and we've seen it all play out real time. Well, the more we look into it, the more the Kraken stuff keeps showing up. And then we find out that on 2/22/2022, Pluto is in the exact place where it was in America, over America in 1776. So it's 27 degrees Capricorn. That's where it was on July 4th, 1776. So you're talking about a key point where there's a major schism, and that the return of Pluto is associated with these breaks, schisms, revolutions, downfalls, upheavals. So we just had a Pluto return to where it was last 1776. So looking into Pluto, we find out Pluto was Hades. So we'd been watching and observing and just analyzing this whole Kanye West drama, and now Pete Davidson's a part of it, because Kanye West has it out for Pete Davidson publicly. Well, Kanye West is there doing his Dawn Day performance on the day that Pluto returns, 2/22, and the whole thing is produced by Future. The album is produced by Future, who goes by Pluto. So looking into it, find out that Pluto is Hades, and Hades is the guy who releases the Kraken. So I'm looking at this 22 date as very significant. And it gets deeper when you get into the symbolism of the kraken, the crack, the split. And leading up to 2/22, what did Joe Biden do in front of the whole world? Passed out crack pipes to everybody. What are the odds? This is high-level meme, magic, info war. So let's move on to this. So again, Dawn Day 2 produced by Future, who's Pluto, or Hades. Again, the whole month of February, you had the palindrome the entire last week. It's all about a mirror. And, when you think about a crack, you're talking about a split, like a tear, or splitting in two. So there's this mirroring inferred here. What's more, on 2/2, on the second day of the month, in the Twin Cities, there's another mirror, a 22-year-old was killed by police who had a no-knock warrant. So they went through his door. And there's a lot of significance to all of this, but the main thing is they shoot him at 6:48 a.m. 6:48 is a perfect mirror of 8:46, referencing another Twin Cities atrocity. So you have a mirror killing. I mean, this is all very encoded. On the 22nd, you had twin, as in two, Black Hawk helicopters crash, and they crash in a place called Fork Canyon. So when you get fork, what do you have with a fork? Two prongs, a split. Also noteworthy, Hades carries a two-pronged trident, also known as a bident. Bident, trident. So Joe Bident handing out crack pipes correlates in a weird way, but it's timed with the story of Hades and his Bident releasing his Kraken. Very bizarre. So again, I'm suggesting here that this crack that we're hearing about, this Kraken thing, it's a reference to whatever it is that's going to sink the Titanic, that's going to knock down the Tower of Babel. So looking at the Dawn Day 2 event, the stage, it was dark, it was flooded, Kanye's there, and now Kanye's out with some of these music videos suggesting he'd like to bury Pete Davidson alive. And by the way, Pete Davidson is not only killed in this music video by Kanye, but he, of course, had his head blown up in that SNL episode. So we have two instances of him, publicly dying, and like I mentioned, his father. So I have a few theories about where this might go. I mean, are we looking at a coming Martian sacrifice? Let me go ahead and play that clip, if you haven't seen it. Pete Davidson's head explodes on Mars. So the episode was called, he was named Chad. Elon Musk sends Pete Davidson to Mars in a polarizing SNL skit where Pete Davidson's head explodes. Now, one other point about this and his head exploding. Okay, the other point about it I would say is this. Elon Musk was there at Dawn Day 2. So he's there hanging out with, Marilyn Manson and Kanye West. And Kanye West and Musk are both associated with the ritualistic killing of Pete, or symbolic, we could say, artistic. Let me show you the scene here where Pete Davidson's head explodes. Looks like more predictive programming in my view. Going through some comments, Echo Charlie mentions the crack in the Liberty Bell. Well, the crack in the Liberty Bell, 1846, wasn't it? But the 846 seems to correlate well with two things. The killing of Floyd, which was a 9/11ing of America. And I look at 9/11, a 9/11ing event as a split, a fork, splitting us into two big factions, the anti and the pro, which you see with every major psyop. But 846 is also the time of day, or morning, that 9/11 started, right at 846. Okay, let me play this clip here where Pete Davidson is on Mars and Musk decides to broadcast it to the entire world because they have to see it, and then watch what happens.
Oh, 2 levels are climbing. He did it!
Make the feed public. Everyone needs to see this. Chad, the world can see you right now. Do you have anything you want to say?
Okay, so everyone's watching Chad, this guy on Mars, Pete Davidson, who's about to go to space in Bezos' rocket.
Same thing. Let the camera get a good look at your face, Chad. I want the world to see the man who gave everything to ensure that humanity's future will be among the stars.
Okay.
No, don't take your helmet off!
Okay, and there you have it. His head explodes. He takes his helmet off on Mars. His head explodes. Now let me point out a few other things that this does actually follow a pattern. I would say one of the godfathers of modern rocket science, Jack Parsons, JPL. Jack Parsons died a fiery death. His laboratory exploded. He was 37, very significant. Yuri Gagarin, Fiery death, mysterious death, first man in space, died shortly after his 34th birthday. Then you have the Challenger, as you all know. But my point is, Apollo 1 also, those three guys burned up there. But at every major phase of our evolution into the space program, into the space age, usually there's some kind of a foundational sacrifice. So, rocket scientist blows up. First man in space blows up. And then you have the three with the Apollo mission blew up before they got on the moon. And then before we have the space station, we got the space shuttles going up, and the space station is preceded by a space shuttle immolation, fiery explosion. So now I'm thinking we're set for some other kind of fiery immolation before the next phase, before we go to Mars, the next phase of this space program. So I think there might be some ritual significance to this. Now let's just really briefly touch on what Mars is, because this is kind of important to keep in mind. So Mars is Horus. Horus is a falcon, like the Falcon 9. Elon Musk, as many of you already know, comes right out of Mars, A Technical Tale by Werner von Braun. Musk has also been associated with Iron Man. In fact, Robert Downey Jr. studied Musk to be a better Tony Stark. So you have the Falcon-Mars connection with Horus. We are entering into the age of Horus, according to the New Agers. That's what they call it. So I'm positing that the Mars program is the exoteric cover for the New Age unveiling. And I think it's borne out by all of the facts and by their own proclamations. And the agenda speaks for itself, especially when you get into the symbolism of characters like Greta Thunberg in particular. So we'll get into this as well. Let's get back into this thing really quick here. So again, Pete Davidson going for a ride in Dr. Evil's Dong rocket on March 23rd at 13:30 GMT. So we'll be watching and we'll follow up on that. Again, we were analyzing his tattoos. That's coming up on the 23rd. So what's it going to be? Is he going to go to fake space like all these others and just come back down, or is there something else? I put a poll up here as well. COVID cured radical Islamic terrorism. Putin cured COVID. What will cure Putin? 40% said aliens. 50% said climate change. 10% said nukes. Obi Ninja said, late for the show, better than never. Get on the text message news alerts. Go to infiniteplane.radio. Infiniteplane.radio. Just scroll down to all the links. infiniteplanesociety.com. Live stream notifications. All right, there's a lot of things going on. Good things. We are definitely progressing. But I'm trying to stay really focused on the information here. But over in Discord, I'll post more information if you're curious about where things are going with this channel, improvements that we're making. For example, right now I'm developing a series called Metascript Decodes, a bunch of short 10-minute videos, serialized, that I think you'll like. Let me get this one out. This is an important point. Mr. Most Woke sent this to me. Howard Zinn, Boston Bombing Connection. This is actually a good clip. So, you may know Howard Zinn from People's History of the United States. I believe it was referenced by Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. Good Will Hunting is the movie that has people convinced that Matt Damon is really bright or something. I mean, he might be, but they think that he's actually this genius, like from that movie. It's amazing how movies can paint people up as something other than what they are, and people just believe appearances. But this is why movie stars play such an important role in the world stage. They're all propaganda super spreaders. But anyway, Howard Zinn has a direct connection to Joker, the guy who just got the death penalty on the day the new Batman movie was released. We're talking about Dzhokhar Sarnath. Let me play a clip here where you can hear about how Howard Zinn and Joker are buds.
District Attorney Natasha Irving pledged to follow Zinn's example from his autobiography. We also, of course, have professors now espousing the violence of Antifa. One of them is Mark Bray, teaching at Rutgers, probably today. This is the kind of violence that Zinn glorifies in his book. Zinn's book has also influenced terrorists. Tarak Mahana, who was ultimately found guilty of terrorist conspiracy with Al-Qaeda.
So here's what she's talking about, Zinn's inspiration. And if you read Howard Zinn, you would side with Osama bin Laden. You would call 9/11 blowback. America's chickens coming home to roost. You know, these things aren't uniting. Like what I mentioned earlier, why does Reagan think? Why did he seem to think that a hostile threat from Mars would unite us? No, we have some kind of internal invasion, whether it's radical Islamic terrorists or a pandemic, and it splits us down the middle every time. But anyway, this is just a part here about how Zinn is buds with the Dzhokhar Zarnev brother Joker. And this wouldn't be a surprise either. I mean, I read somewhere that Greta Thunberg is pen pals with the Unabomber, and it's probably true.
Requested a people's history along with other reading materials like the autobiography of Malcolm X and an Islamic text, according to an article published in 2010. Boston bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, said that reading a
It's pronounced Joker.
people's history of the United States had opened his eyes to America.
Okay, so reading people's history of the United States opened his eyes to America's evil. So you can see how this all fits together very nicely. No surprise there. Again, the Boston bombing was a hoax. I know a lot of you would like to believe it was real, but it wasn't real. Putin was challenged to a fight by Musk directly today. I think Musk said something about one-on-one combat. So I'll see if I can find that too. Again, I'll continue to monitor the situation with the Kardashians. I never thought I'd be literally keeping up with the Kardashians. Normally it's keeping up with the crisis actors, but it's going that direction. Oh, listen to this. YouTube is banning videos that, quote, minimize or trivialize well-documented events about Russia, Ukraine. So you can tell when something is a hoax because they really work hard to make sure that you're not able to criticize it. Let's see what else we have here. Finally, it's a reality just discovered. Elon Musk has discovered the warp bubble. I knew this would happen. You know, all these billionaires are investing into underground infrastructure. Why is it that Musk and Branson are both involved in hyperloops? Subterranean monorails. Why is that? Aren't they supposed to be going up? Why are they going down? Here's why. I have a feeling it has to do with the way they're going to fake space travel. It's going to be like some kind of Disney ride, the way it's going to actually feel. And they're just going to say, oh, the reason why you're not floating around, the reason why this feels like a monorail is that we're going through a warp bubble. That's kind of where they're going with this. Tricky Who says the Boston bombing op was botched worse than most CIA Fed ops. I don't think they were ready for it. They weren't ready for the internet to mass deconstruct the event real time. So that's probably what started it. The first time I ever saw real-time auto-hoaxing over a major staged event was the Boston bombing. Yeah, so if you don't feel right about the war, you're going to get a strike. I thought about just putting the colors blue and yellow up. Oh, speaking of, and blue and yellow makes green, I'm wondering maybe there's some kind of revolutionary context here, color magic, because it's all about the green revolution. And I've been talking about this green revolution and how even the founder of Earth Day, the unicorn killer, was way ahead of his time, and I think he was onto something when he composted his girlfriend. You all heard about that, right? What's his name, Einhorn? The unicorn killer? I think Einhorn means one horn, but the unicorn killer, he's the guy that started the whole environmentalist thing here, Earth Day. Ira Einhorn, unicorn killer, convicted murderer, environmentalist, murdered his ex-girlfriend, but the main point isn't that he murdered her. He composted her. Like, it doesn't get any greener than that. You're quite, like, almost practically recycling here. But he composted his ex. And, this, I thought of this today because right now they're starting human composting. Like we're moving into the green world order. All the extreme stuff you see the eco-fascists do, it's the future. So just a heads up. This is from thesun.com. My late husband was turned into soil at the world's first human composting factory. And there he is, looks kind of like Jerry Garcia. They look very happy, lovely couple, and she had him composted. Unbelievable. It's for the environment. They actually think they're saving the planet. By the way, there's going to be some kind of, I believe, a solar flare today. On Friday, we were supposed to get killed by a meteor. It missed. Yeah, we're pretty far behind. It's been a few days. Now, there is some predictive programming in the Simpsons for Ukraine, and there's even some foreshadowing suggesting that on May 5th there might be a nuke, so just a heads up. Fake nuke, May 5th. Here's a tweet. St. Bridget's Church upgraded their spire to 5G. 5 Jesus died for our Sims. And, they put this stuff up there as a joke, but I don't think it's a joke. I think that the cult of the monolith is the new replacement religion. And that the DirecTV dish serves the same purpose now as the steeple. All right, going through your comments here, joined by quite a few other people. Okay. I'll open my phones here in a minute then. If anybody has any questions, comments, I will hand out wrenches, so just leave those below and we'll get to them. And if I find an insightful comment after the live stream, I generally copy it for later. So nothing gets lost here. I watched a movie called Free Guy the other day with Ryan Reynolds, and I picked up a lot of predictive programming, a lot of interesting stuff in here worth watching. So Free Guy is about the metaverse. And in the metaverse, you have an NPC who achieves sentience. He's very attracted to the protagonist of the film, and for some reason it sparks something in him and he becomes self-aware. And it becomes very problematic that you have a self-aware AI bot. So again, the movie's called Free Guy, and his name is Guy. And these movies always have significance in their titles, their names, like Truman Show, about Truman Burbank, is about a false man becoming a true man by seeing through the illusion. And so Free Guy is about an NPC slave to the program breaking free of the Saturnian matrix, of the cycles of control. So it's a decent film, it's a comedy, but I think it has some deeper meaning to it. In fact, the way that he breaks the matrix and its control is by going beyond the artificial boundary where there's more land. So hidden land debunks the whole system. And the land beyond the metaverse, where he's not supposed to go, the land that's uncovered, yeah, it looks like a big square hunk of land, very flat earthy, very interesting little side note there. But it's the main point of the movie is that to debunk the system, he has to go outside of it. Well, anyway, the guy who controls the system and keeps everybody enslaved and keeps all the NPCs locked in the system is kind of upset that you have the free guy now running loose. So he decides to reboot the system, a reset. So he tells one of his employees, reboot the system. And I have the image of this on the screen of the character who actually had to do it. And he's got a shirt with a $100 bill on it. Now the significance there, just like the $20 bill has the Twin Towers burning on the back if you fold it, the $100 bill has the Space Needle and what appears to be an EMP burst above it. And this is something which is consistently used in predictive programming, the Space Needle associated with a reset, a hard reset. In fact, the Great Reset was started because of the pandemic, Ground Zero, Seattle. So anyway, the guy who reboots the metaverse in the movie is wearing that on his shirt. That kind of stood out to me. One more point about it. I was thinking Free Gaia. You know, Free Guy. Well, you have the Global AI Alliance. The World Economic Forum 666 has this new idea that you can replace human governance, because humans are flawed, with some type of global AI system that can make everything better. So this World Economic Forum initiative, if you ask me, is kind of insinuated here. The Global AI Action Alliance. So Free Guy becomes this spontaneous artificial intelligence, and he causes the system to now become free. There's no longer the CEO tyrant controlling Free City and turning it into a Grand Theft Auto-like nightmare world. No, now the metaverse is free and all these NPCs are becoming sentient. And this is all started because of Free Guy. Well, it got me thinking again about Gaia, the World Economic Forum's AI team. And Gaia, by the way, is also the name of the god of the earth god. Gaiaism is an earth-centered, philosophical, holistic, spiritual belief that shares expressions of earth religions and paganism, without being exclusive to any one of them. Gaia, Greek goddess of the earth. There's something else about the movie too. In order to not be an NPC, so if I had to say what this movie was, if I had to describe it to you, sum it up, it's a cross between Truman Show and They Live, and it borrows from both. Like in the Truman Show, when Truman's about to break out of the Matrix, everybody in the Truman Show is watching. In Free Guy, the whole world is watching as he goes to the edge and he breaks through. In They Live, the guy puts on these glasses and he can see through the Matrix. He can see the alien controllers. He can see how fake it all is. And he tries to force the glasses onto his friend, and his friend doesn't want it. In Free Guy, same dynamic. It's like even it's black and white. His black friend doesn't want to wear the glasses, and They Live. Same thing in Free Guy. But when he puts on the glasses, he can see through it. Anyway, and the movie They Live is a John Carpenter, also very noteworthy meta scripter there. Another JC. Mr. Stray says IPS or bust. Now, I only watched Free Guy because HBO e-grabbled my pocket. Anytime I don't have my Cash App card off, one of these streaming sites manages to charge me just on the random. Okay, we have Russia threatening to leave an astronaut in space. Let me play this really quick.
Assault on Ukraine could jeopardize peace on the International Space Station. The head of Russia's space agency has threatened to leave an American astronaut behind to retaliate for U.S. sanctions. And Russia has removed the flags of the United States and its allies from one of its rockets. Nate Foy has more on this. Nate, what can you tell us?
So they're peeling their American flag stickers off their rockets.
Emily, a lot going on here. The entire relationship in space between the two countries is in question. Russia's threatening to end its cooperation at the International Space Station. That's a big problem for Mark Vandehei, who you see right here. He's supposed to come back to Earth in about 3 weeks after a 355-day...
Yep, Mark Vandehei is coming down next. Okay, so I have to point this out too, just a sort of a update to a story. Russian vids. Actually, he's not Russian vids anymore. He changed it. Probably because of the Russian-Ukraine thing, but Russian vids is now RV Truth. He bought himself a used RV, and he's driving around spreading what he says is the truth, but he's not always that reliable. So RV Truth shared this video suggesting that Dearth, deep inside the rabbit hole, is now part of this, quote, flat earth trifecta. Rob Skiba, Mac, and now Dearth. In other words, he's suggesting that Dearth, like Skiba and Mac, is dead, or has died, or just died, that he got the COVID. And so he has a clip here, no explanation, out of context, but in every way he insinuates that Dearth is dead.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you make of COVID?
What do I make of COVID? You know what? I had it. I got sick, and now I'm better. I didn't die.
So Dave, with the flat Earth theory,
for somebody, you have to go into a hospital. You have to go somewhere, and you need to put on a mask if you absolutely have to. fakemaskworldwide.com, and I needed to get away, so I did it.
Okay, so there we have it. Dearth said I needed to get away, whatever that means. But in other words, Russian vids on this video has insinuated that Dearth is about to fake die from COVID. That was his unspoken assertion there. Well, Dearth has since responded, and he has said that no, he is not dead. So just a heads up, Flat Earth Dave, aka Fed, is doing just fine. Let me play this clip. VP Harris was referred to as the Joker, and this might be why someone asked her, what do you think about the tragedy in Ukraine?
A friend in need is a friend indeed.
I can first. Okay, I can first. Okay, I can first.
Anyway, she was criticized for her inappropriate laughter. A little more Fed news, Flat Earth Dave. This is something that popped up on Reddit. So I was looking for information. I was like, is Dearth okay? And someone in Discord found this, which I'd never seen before. It's from reddit.com. Did David Dearth Weiss murder Curious J for repudiating Flat Earth? So this is a podcast, Did Dearth Murder Curious J? And I'm just going to read an excerpt from it. The snake oil salesman and general charlatan David Weiss, aka Dearth, is co-host of the Flat Earth podcast. Is it worth a listen? No. I've listened to every episode in my frequent exercise sessions. The idiocy and hypocrisy is balanced by the hilarity generated by the stupidity. Anyway, he goes on to say, Dearth got his name from another conspiracy podcast, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. From my intel, this podcast ended as Dave got obsessed with Flat Earth, pissing off his co-hosts who moved on without him. This is when he started the FE podcast with Curious J. Was this guy who sold solar-powered equipment this dumb, or did he smell money to be made from rubes? The guy who's writing this doesn't believe the Earth is flat, or doesn't think the Earth is anything other than a spinning CGI ball. My point being is this, though. It says, the podcast with Curious J ran for years, but here's where it gets interesting. You could tell that Curious J, whose real name and whereabouts remain a mystery, was becoming skeptical. He started becoming curious. Goes on to say here that Curious J remained curious, and I believe that years of podcasts led to these holes where he ultimately knew that the flat earth was likely a lie being propagated by foolish Bible literalists. Until one day, Curious J disappeared. Anyway, it goes on to say he appeared once and it didn't even sound like him. It says he popped up once to say he was too busy. He sounded distant and under duress, and then he disappeared forever. And then Dearth replaced him. Goes on here to say, but to the missing Curious J, did Dearth murder him, with Curious J falling away from believing in the flat earth, now posing a threat to Dave's money-making scheme? Now, it is true that Weiss did beta test an app which he stole and has made easily $100,000 plus since. So did Curious J pose a threat to Dave's money-making scheme? How could Dave sell an app and build a bigger following and be a big man at the conferences if he couldn't keep his own podcasting partner convinced? So, goes on to say one other thing here. No word from Curious J has been heard anywhere. How could someone so curious just stop being curious? Those who follow the flat earth are big believers that the evil powers perpetrating the globe love to hide it in plain sight, that they love to tease the plebes with breadcrumbs, a prime example being the UN flag. So, given that flat earthers are obsessed with this line of thought, is it any surprise that the murder of Curious J would indulge in this exact type of thing? And what he points out is this. Shortly after Curious J disappeared, an episode came out. I present episode 117, March 11th, 2018, Curious J is not dead. Where is Curious J? So his question is here, did a money-hungry charlatan murder his ex-partner to protect his income? Interesting question. It's a Reddit feed. I don't know. If you have any information about this. Victoria Panda says he's been trying to take the RV Truth name for a long time. Okay, so it's a misconception that he recently changed from Russian vids to RV truth over the Ukraine thing. Just thanks for clarifying. Okay, commenter here says, Weiss and Timothy Rothschild met while working together at a company, which Weiss insists is not necessary to the narrative. Initially, deep inside the rabbit hole was Rothschild's idea. I don't even like that phrase very much, to be honest. Deep inside the rabbit hole. And one of the logos they used was a rabbit with a hypnotic spiral where its tail should be, where the rabbit hole would be. And I'm like, is that appropriate? And then he's a hypnotist, so. I got a comment here from Discord. This one's from Lloyd Miller. Lloyd said, and this was a couple of days ago, I was listening to the Mike Gallagher radio talk show today while driving for sales work. Mike couldn't understand why the caller was angry and rejecting him. Then, an IPS type called in to explain it. The IPS type called in and started to explain the full-blown, quote, world stage conspiracy theory, claiming that the Ukrainian war news is fake movie magic. After claiming he was open to alternative views moments before, he cut off the caller. Apparently, he went too far. Yep, exactly. You have alternative news, and then you have media analysis coming from a post-world stage perspective, and they can't have that. If you know there's a stage, if you see through the magic tricks, you give away the game, they don't want to hear from you. Victoria says, I only found out this from Russian vids. Oh, yeah, about his name from... Yeah, I made it up, to be honest. He's not in an RV. Russian vids is anonymous. Nobody knows who he is. He claims that he's a Bible-believing flat earther, and the Bible tells him that we're under a dome. The problem with this thing is Russian vids doesn't know any Bible verses. How many Bible fundamentalists do you know that can't recite the Bible? And moreover, he bookends every one of his videos with lyrics from crisis actor Meatloaf. So it's like Meatloaf is a better source for profound statements than the Jesus that you claim to serve. I mean, Meatloaf? Meatloaf was there at Parkland Hospital the day JFK was shot. He claims he saw the blood of JFK on the Lincoln. So he's got crisis actor lyrics on his videos, but no Bible verses. So I don't even think that Russian Vids owns a Bible. Anyway, let us move on. Russia warns sanctions could cause the International Space Station to crash. The Russian segment. Now, this is the thing. Apparently, it's unwieldy, and they're going to take the segment off. And they put that video out there, and it's been viewed as something of a threat. The Russian segment ensures that the station's orbit is corrected on average 11 times a year. So if the Russian segment is no longer being utilized, then they're no longer doing the monthly bump to correct its orbit. So that's why they're saying if Russia doesn't play, the space station falls. Okay, let's see what else. Actor turned president Zelensky is the, quote, Tom Hanks of Ukraine. Fascinating. Not the first time. You see, it's not unintentional either. That you would go from movie to politics. I mean, there's that cliche about politics being show business for ugly people, but in truth, it's all the same backstage. Ashy Dog says meatloaf or meat loaf. Right, because meat loaf with a space is a Mandela effect, according to Brian Stavely. Even though Meatloaf says otherwise. Meatloaf actually says that you are a, quote, I think he says that he's a moron and he wants to punch you in the face if you think that his name has a space in it. Or doesn't have a space in it. Or does. I don't even know. Because I don't care. It's not because I'm Mandela affected, it's because I don't care. I literally could not get myself to care. But for the time being, let's look into it. Meatloaf is a dish of ground meat, that's one word, and meat loaf is the singer. And he said, and this debunks the conspiracy theory about Mandela effect. He said that his fans chant meat, meat when he steps up on the stage. So you can't call it a Mandela effect. I'm sorry. Now, if you didn't know about the JFK story, so Meatloaf, who's always surrounded by the bat imagery, gets killed by the bat virus. Didn't heat up his bat suit properly. Well, he also predicted his own death. His producer died, and he said he was going to die because of that for some reason. Well, he dies of COVID after taking a staunch anti-vax position, typical of a COVID crisis actor. Well, before he died, he was running around making these appearances. He spoke to Mike Huckabee, the politician, and he told a story about how he ditched school on 11/22/63, and he was at Parkland, of all names, Parkland Hospital, where he did see the blood of Kennedy on the Lincoln. Let me bring this up. This connects him in many ways to the bigger picture, because all the major conspiracy theories are connected. So here we have Meatloaf's crazy encounter after the JFK assassination. And here's another bullet point for the parallels between the JFK assassination and the Lincoln assassination, just the connections. So you've got Kennedy's blood on a Ford Lincoln. And then with the Lincoln assassination, you got Lincoln's blood all over the Ford Theater. Okay, Meatloaf's crazy encounter after the JFK assassination. I'll just go right to a point here, like halfway through. It's 16 minutes. He really drags it out.
I'll give you 5. My friends go, yeah, take 5. So we tore the 5 into 3 pieces.
You still have that?
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
I'm sure it is.
It is. Trust me. Billy still has his.
Yeah.
I don't know where the other person
Now,
is.
there's a huge build-up. It's a long, boring story. Okay, here we go. This is the part where I think he talks about dipping his hand in the blood of
Where we were,
Kennedy.
I doubt anybody has as vivid a memory as you do.
Not
as a
like
high
that.
school kid.
I don't know how many people got pulled over by the Secret Service and driven into Parkland.
Well, it's never happened to Keith, Trey, or me. I can attest to that.
I don't think it's happened to anybody else.
I mean, it's an amazing story. And when I tell people, because I've said to people, you'll never believe where Meatloaf was on the day of the Kennedy assassination.
And they keep reiterating how unbelievable it is. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's like a movie. It's like a story. Well, it's because it's exactly that. And here he is comparing himself to Forrest Gump.
You were there. Okay.
In a sense, I am like Forrest Gump.
Well, you've been everywhere. But
because
there's a story.
Those kind of things, like the Secret Service guy, those kind of things have happened in my life more than one time. Trust me. Not Secret Service. All right, next question.
There is a story.
Okay, so anyway, he was there at that PSYOP. What does that tell you? Oh, here's another one. How Taxi Driver is connected to 2 assassination attempts. So the movie Taxi Driver, Robert De Niro, about a porn-obsessed degenerate who drives a cab and he decides to make a name for himself by murdering a politician. Well, he was the inspiration for John Hinckley, who shot Reagan. And that led to the Brady Bill and all of that. But that's in itself is an interesting point, a story. John Hinckley, of course, was recently, I believe he's been recently released, 66 years old. Back in August, they were talking about letting him go. And that stood out because they were also trying to release Saran, who shot RFK. A lot of assassins walking loose these days. But anyway, there was another shooter who was inspired by the movie, and he was going to do something very similar. And then his name was Bemer. Born in the 50s, Bemer grew up in an abusive household. But anyway, like the movie, he shaved his head. 1972, he grew tired of it and decided to become an assassin. Tried to shoot an Alabama governor. I think he tried to shoot Wallace. But my point is, just another example of a movie mixing in with reality, as they're apt to do. And here's another example of how they use fiction to mold our reality. And I love looking at these old pictures. So this is a picture from 1962. So in 1962, The Stargazer balloon takes off. And I don't know if you've ever seen light brights. It's like a kind of like a child's toy. It's basically a panel with peg holes in it. And you put a black piece of paper over it, and it's lit from behind. And when you poke holes, it creates little starlights, and you have these elaborate patterns. Well, anyway, I'm looking at space as it appeared in 1962, and it looks like a light bright. The first time they filmed space, it looked like paper with holes poked in it. Zinvala says, I loved Light Bright as a kid. Echo Charlie says, is Tom Hanks playing Biden? You know, who's playing Biden? I don't know. I mean, I still think it's Beau. I think Beau Biden. But, you know, the thing about space that I find most interesting is you can look back and just see how space changes along with our ability to fake it. Like, the better we can fake it, the more real it looks. Funny how that happens. And nobody seems to notice that it used to look faker, as though that doesn't matter. Last month, a massive plasma eruption from the sun shot 2.2 million miles into space. Just another 2-2 associated with a month of 2-2s. Meghan Markle's biggest troll is her half-sister Samantha. Have you seen those pictures of Meghan Markle with her baby bump falling out? Where she's got this like fake pregnant bump and then it drops and she puts it back in. Kind of like at the Boston bombing. Was it Bowman, one of these runners, his leg prosthetic fell off and Carlos Rendondo had to put it back on? Yeah, Meghan Markle's dropped her baby bump. Well, anyway, it turns out that the person who keeps breaking the story is her own half-sister. And they're calling her a troll. The Duchess's half-sister. And she's threatening to sue BuzzFeed for being called a troll. But basically, she describes her sister as shallow social climbing and has made a lot of claims. She said, for example, I've seen her stomach big in the morning. Oh, her Twitter name is Trump is America's President in 2021. I've seen her stomach big in the morning and flat at the end of the day. I was informed when she picked up her eggs in Los Angeles. I believe a surrogate was used. I wonder if it was Chelsea Manning. Let me bring that up really quick here. Yes, Chelsea Manning is dating Grimes. Grimes dating leaker Chelsea Manning after Elon Musk breakup. And this after we find out that they have a new baby, and we don't know if is it 3D printed or did they have technical assistance from a surrogate like Chelsea Manning making it its baby's mother, father. I don't know how you would even categorize that. Here, let's read some more tweets from Trump is America's President. I think there should be mandatory that proof of delivery from my sister's womb is provided if any of the children are to have a title. And Archie should not have a title because I believe a surrogate was used. Okay, so there you have it. Half-sister of Meghan Markle explaining why the baby bump. Oh, I meant to address this a minute ago when we were talking about the Mandela effect. One of the main Mandela effects of the day is 101 Dalmatians, which they claim is a Mandela effect. They claim that Dalmatians on 101 Dalmatians used to be spelled Dalmations, like Dalmatians. But now it's Dalmatians with an A, Tians. Thus, Mandela effect. So here they are saying this is proof that reality has shifted, we're all NPCs, supernatural, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Well, Dalmatians is spelled Tians because they're from Dalmatia. So there's no O in the picture. So it's got to be wrong. However, this was sent to me as evidence of the Mandela effect. It's a puzzle. 101. It's a Dalmatian station, and it's spelled Tion, even on the box. So this is what they call residue. So what are you going to extrapolate from this? Are you looking at, and you can buy it for $25 on eBay, are you looking at an artifact from a parallel universe where Dalmatians has an O? Or are we looking at some kind of an error, a human error? Anybody? Linda Curtis remembers Dalmatians. David A. Pryor says Stavely bought that puzzle. Right. All right. Zinvella says this has got to be one of the worst Mandela effects so far. Right? Well, they remember it being spelled Tion. What they don't account for is when you were a kid and you watch these movies, you're learning to read, you're learning to spell, you're learning Tion to change a word, and you're going to make mistakes as a kid. Unless you were all straight A's and you never misspelled anything, I don't believe you're Mandela affected. Unless you have a perfect recollection and you can prove it, don't tell me you're Mandela affected. Brian Stavely, BS, his initials. Sometimes they give it away, like Flat Earth Dave, Fed. You know, BS is constantly up telling us that we're not as good as him because we're not Mandela affected, but he has not demonstrated a perfect memory. So I'm supposed to believe that the universe changed. You didn't misspell that word. It's like, well, I don't know. I need some evidence. Let's see proof that you're never wrong. You don't lose your keys. Anyway, let's move on. Man shot 33 times, forgives attackers, and is determined to rebuild his life. Again, rebuild, build back better, forgiveness, 33. Very Christy. I'm not going to delve into that one. It just looks like more fake news. Let me look at this. This is good too. This is a compilation of the colors, blue and yellow, and how before Ukraine, these same colors were used to program us for COVID, with the yellow and blue being used to show PPE. Take a look. For the past 2 years, you've been programmed with blue and yellow with COVID testing sites, blue masks, the yellow with the signage at all the testing sites, all the logos, coronavirus NHS alerts, all blue and yellow. Programming. By the way, speaking of 33-year-olds, the person who broke the news about the COVID leak originally was a guy named Wee Lion. Wee Lion. And guess how old he was? Think about this. A whistleblower. He dies to tell the truth to the world that you're all going to die if you don't recognize this new threat, this new thing. Like Jesus died for our sin, he died, this guy died, to warn us about the new iteration of sin, which is the coronavirus. And here you have it. His name is Wee Lion. Let me see if I can find a picture of him. These whistleblowers are all suspect, by the way, because they're all script readers. Coronavirus kills Chinese whistleblower. The 33-year-old doctor was the first to raise the alarm about the coronavirus. And here's the face of Wee Lion doing one of these selfies right before he dies. These mask selfies. You had mask selfies, then you had vaxies, where you take a picture of yourself when you're getting vaxxed. And now you've got helpies. So go hug a Ukrainian and get a selfie of yourself while you're hugging them. And here he is, showing his ID, his name, as he's dying. Deathbed selfies are so 2020, was what someone said the other day. Xmas Eve says, you're on fire, keep going. Yeah, these are really important connections. Celestial Wonder says that sounds like the tune from Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, that song reminds me of Sean Hufford. You know, the Flat Earth critic who had a $3,000 Uber Eats bill. Or whatever. $30,000. How much did he spend on Uber Eats and he could have just crossed the street? You know, last year I had said, let's just go ahead and lock up all the 33-year-olds and have a calm year. No one took my advice. And then you had the QAnon shaman, 33. You had this 33-year-old in Australia punching a horse. You had the 33-year-old Code Monkey Z trying to upstage or upturn the election event results over at the Cyber Symposium. Lock up the 33-year-olds. Just 1 year. 1 year of peace. Oh, by the way, Grimes dating Chesley Manning. Grimes is 33. I believe Evan Wood, who just released Phoenix Rising, Marilyn Manson's ex is 33. I can't wait to start releasing the Metascript decodes because we cover so much material that you can't expect someone to sit for 4 hours or 3 hours or 2 hours. I think it's important to get some of the basics out. So I'm serializing a whole series, Metascript Decode. I'll start releasing those daily. Once I have 3 or 4 pre-recorded and they're all templated and I like the way it's produced, I will release them systematically. So get on the newsletter. You're not going to want to miss Metascript Decodes. And if you're a patron supporter or you're a member of any of my sites, you'll get access probably 24 hours before anybody else. Okay, Pete Davidson to space. Happy Pi Day. Rogozin, the Roscosmos guy, called Elon Musk a little devil and a weakling. Let's look at that for a moment. Oh, a couple other things here. Yes, confirmation from Dearth himself. Fed is not dead. He posted something here. It's always nice when someone offers clarification because, it was really confusing there for a minute. Like, definitely seemed to be that Russian Vids was trying to set the stage here that he believes that this guy's dying or about to die, but apparently it's a nothing burger. Dearth says, I would like to report I have not died, as some headlines have reported. Now, if Dearth could get Curious J, if Dearth could dig him up, or rather look him up, and ask Curious J to go ahead and clarify that he's still among the living. So contrary to the speculation fueled by RV Truth, 9/11 witness Dearth is not dead. So Dearth must have seen Pete Davidson's father die that day, right? Dearth is a 9/11 witness. He actually saw with his own eyes, without wearing Oculus. Somehow he managed to see the CGI planes hitting the towers. That would be Dearth, deep inside the rabbit hole. He saw the 9/11 airplanes. Rocco Truth says, I think RV was just saying that he believes COVID is real. Okay, that could have been, but he could not have been more ambiguous because he called Dearth a member of the Flat Earth trifecta, including Skiba and Mac. And Mac and Skiba both recently caught the COVID and died. Although yesterday, or on the 12th, a couple days ago, I was on Instagram and I got this on my feed. It shows you recent changes and updates. So 15 hours ago, Dark Matter News liked a photo of my charcoal owl. 19 hours ago, X-Pac liked my penguin with the balloon. 1 day ago, Flat Earth 101 and Mac Parhar followed Flat Earth Festival's official. So I'm like, wait a minute here. How did Mac Parhar's Instagram follow somebody yesterday? So Dearth's not dead, and Mac Parhar is haunting his Instagram account. Did he upload his consciousness, into the metaverse already? Did he get a head start? Because Mac Parhar's Instagram account is haunted. Okay, let me bring this up. I want to kind of catch everybody up with why I'm so obsessed with the Kardashians at the moment. Because normally it's keeping up with the crisis actors, but now it's become keeping up with the Kardashians because these two worlds are merging. So the other day, and these are all clues, I think, I believe we are seeing Metascript clues pointing at a possible new O.J. Simpson level atrocity to come. So either Pete Davidson's going to space on the 23rd, or possibly something may happen first. So if you hadn't seen this yet, there was a message exchange between Kanye and Pete Davidson while Davidson is in bed with Kanye's wife. And he brags about it and he shows off his terrible tattoos. So it looks like there's some escalation, and during their conversation here, they agree to meet up. And it sounds like they're not going to have a nice talk. So I want to point out this. There's the connection with the Kardashians through Richard Kardashian, who stood by OJ through the whole OJ trial. We have the Kanye video depicting the killing of Davidson. We have Davidson's head exploding on Mars on a Musk-hosted SNL episode. We have Kanye weirdly dating a mirror of Kim. Kanye's dating a Kimitator. So this reoccurring mirror, this mirror symbol, it's everywhere. But you have Kimitator, which is basically a Kim Kardashian clone. And to me, that's kind of pathological. To date someone that looks just like your ex publicly. I also want to point out, Halloween Kills was out when William Shatner went to space. As, you know, the Rocket Man goes to space, riding Dr. Evil's dong rocket. Meanwhile, on Earth, the movie Halloween Kills is out, where the main killer, Mike Myers, is wearing a William Shatner mask. So if you've seen the guy in Halloween with the creepy mask, yeah, that's a William Shatner face. So I just pointed this out. The connection was the Knife Man and the Rocket Man. Same face. Well, around that same time, Kanye was walking around, such a strange Halloween season. He's walking around in a weird mask. Just very creepy, very Halloween-esque. So I saw this and I thought, this reminds me of Mike Myers. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of a featureless thing. Almost looks like an inside-out mask, which is what it could be, but whatever it is. This is around the time that the movie's out. David Ames gets stabbed 17 times. So I see this stabbiness, this theme reoccurring. Well, then we arrive in December and O.J. Simpson is released. So O.J. is loose. The juice is loose. Around this time, I see an image of Kanye and Musk hanging out. Musk has an orange on his shirt, and Kanye is wearing an orange jacket. Again, what does this mean? I'm just like, at the time, like, is there a story? Is there a build-up? I don't know what this is, but here you have Kanye West. There was some kind of trendy meme going on at the time with oranges, I'm sure, but I'm just interested in the subtext here. I'm just pointing something out here, that you have the Kardashian OJ connections. We have this build-up. Then we have Kanye, Musk, and Manson hanging out at Donde 2. So I'm thinking, are we being set up for some kind of Manson-esque level Hollywood killing atrocities? I'm expecting, based on what we've seen so far, I'm expecting Kanye to go Charlie Manson on the situation and to ride off into the sunset, OJ style, on a white horse, a Bronco. It doesn't have to be a Bronco, but symbolically, it represents the end or something. Now, the other part I want to mention here is that the white horse symbol is right out of Revelation 19:11. Behold a pale horse, behold a white horse. And Marilyn Manson, by the way, at the Donde event, I think represents the helter-skelter, the split, the black and the white. He represents the Charles Manson of our time on the world stage in that sense. And Charles Manson, if you didn't know, he was trying to start a race war. He was going to frame the Black Panthers, and then it was meant to instigate. But anyway, I just happen to think that Kanye West is playing some kind of a role here with Pete Davidson. And me, it's just a question of whether Pete Davidson gets to space and becomes the Rocket Man, or is he going to get knifed first? You'll find out here first, because we're keeping up closer than anybody. Ashley Dog says Kanye is going to snap. David says it would be epic if he rode away on a real horse. Rocco says those guys are just riffing off each other, dumb drama. Right. It could all just be dumb drama. Sells tickets, holds people's attention. Or it could be a setup for a major psyop where we experience the death of the West, the death of Kanye West's world, Kanye West world. And that's what I think it would represent. I think we're looking at the end result of American materialism, our worship of celebrity, and at the end of the day, look what happens. And I think that's what we're being led to, because there hasn't really been something commensurate with the OJ killing or anything like it, any big celebrity atrocity like that in some time. And if you've noticed, the PSYOP entertainment complex loves to recycle. Not just crisis actors these days, entire storylines. They even recycle explosions. You got these mushroom clouds over these explosions, over these bombing sites. It's like, wait, that cloud and that explosion looks exactly like one from 5 years before. Crisis clouds. Okay, I'm going to play a clip here. I guess this is a debunk. We've been looking at the Mandela effect lately because we know what really causes it. And one of the Mandela effects that has a lot of people going is the idea that C-3PO, the robot from Star Wars, had a silver leg. Well, here is a 1979, this is from Sesame Street, this is 1979 raw footage, R2-D2 and C-3PO. For context, let me go ahead and just explain what the actual Mandela effect is. Okay, so the Mandela effect is this. The Mandela affected version of reality is that C-3PO has a silver leg. In Star Wars A New Hope, he appears with one silver leg. The Empire Strikes Back. Okay, anyway, my point is this is some kind of a point of contention among the Mendoozled. But if you look at this old footage here, you can see C-3PO for yourself. You can see his legs, and what are you looking at?
Hey, I think I get it. Listen, if it says one, I go be...
I have to say, the footage is so bad that how could you form memories? Dolly has braces. This footage is so bad, it looks like Big Bird has braces. Am I Mandela affected? I'm pretty sure. Look in that beak. But yeah, again, this is meant to show that there is no Mandela effect. Xmas Eve says Manson was a hoax and George Bush was the main actor. Jenna says Pete Davidson is born female. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I mean, I guess it's possible. There's that whole line of inquiry about this idea that all of the elite are switched. Everything is Alice in Wonderland, up is down, down is up, etc. Let me continue to go through my minds. This is a little meme here. Mom, what is hypocrisy? This is a girl and her mom making cupcakes, and the mom says, when someone posts free Ukraine, but wants to lock down their unvaccinated neighbor. Yeah, that'd be my question. What do you all mean about free Ukraine? What do you mean by freedom? Let us continue. Asteroid impacts the Earth just 2 hours after it was discovered. I'm taking credit for this. I'm taking credit for this impact because for the last few days, actually weeks, there's been some time I've done this, but I've been really harping on this lately. I've said, how come NASA misses on all of its predictions when it comes to incoming space rocks? They're always wrong. Yet, whenever they're aiming for some distant object millions of miles away, they're always right. So you can land a probe the size of an iPhone on a moving comet 2 million miles away. But you can't tell me predictably when a rock a few million miles away is going to hit. Well, for the first time I can recall, they actually called it. NASA has called an asteroid right. And I have been noticing the disparity with their inbound, outbound aim, and so it seems like they've updated their scripts. No evidence, you can just take their word for it. Let's see what else we have here. Need to Give says, this seems like an interesting channel. Let's see what you've got. Thank you. AAAA says, wouldn't that dude falling from the Twin Towers want to fall feet down to have at least a slight chance of living? Okay, you're referring to the 9/11 falling man. Now, the 9/11 falling man photo, weirdly enough, was taken by the same guy that photographed RFK's death. It's not the only connection there. Another 9/11 JFK connection. The falling man photo is also owned by Elton John. I'll do a 10-minute video on that picture itself. There's quite a lot there. This is a pretty good little meme here. I just found it. Again, good memers, good meme techs copy great meme text steal, and I've been stealing a lot of memes lately. This one here, stolen from, I believe, YouTube. On the left, person is being hypnotized with a COVID ball and a string. On the right, it's a blue and yellow Ukraine ball. You see a pattern? So I'm predicting the next one will be a burning globe. Going through some comments, says Tyrone says the actors are sterile. They are latent, which means they have no libido. Fascinating. I'd like to learn more about that. I mean, what are we looking at? Is there some kind of like a stable where all these actors are? I mean, they all kind of look like, and I've said this before, there's like a really shallow gene pool at the top of the Illuminati dung heap. Hey, check this out. Some guy cashed out on a meteor for a lot of money. So 18 months ago, this thing fell. He saw this fireball 18 months ago. He managed to track it down, and he found a rock, and it's worth 100,000 pounds. That's a 2-pound, 4-ounce meteorite. There it is. Anyway, it landed on 3/11. I think, let me see the date, actually. Someone had said 3/11. Anyway, it fell 18 months ago. He discovered it on the 11th, and now he's going to sell it for $100,000. He has to get it certified. My main point was this, though. 3/11 is the second hoax anniversary of COVID, and I was like, wouldn't that be ironic and funny, not funny, if this was a carrier of some kind of space aids? Like if this guy cashes out this meteor, but then he's patient zero for like the next major pandemic. And space AIDS is a thing. Before COVID-19, you had C-19, which was the comet Atlas that broke apart. And there were some scientists who were suggesting, there's a few of them, they were shut down quickly, but they said that maybe it came from space. And you know what's interesting is C-19, the comet, was this green light in the sky, very similar to the one in Don't Look Up that preceded the comet that would wreck the world. It breaks apart just like the one that passed in 2019 broke apart. Okay, so Tyrone says that the famous are peerage derived. They inbreed and they use IVF techniques to get any births. That would not surprise me. It really wouldn't. Yeah, I look at some of these like major stars, Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, and you're like, do these people actually make that much money? Or are they minimum wage workers owned by like puppets, more or less? I mean, they could be. We don't really know. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and we're given a front. You think you know the movie star and the actor off the stage. No, they're an actor on and off the stage. And there's a pretty convincing conspiracy theory, I guess. There's a pretty convincing theory that's been put forth that Brad Pitt is an actor that plays the role of Benicio del Toro. In other words, Benicio del Toro does not exist. And if you look at the two of them, there's a similarity, but what the suggestion here is what you're looking at hyper-realistic, foolproof masks, the type that the CIA uses for its deep fakery. I mean, long before digital deepfake, they had already mastered this technique. So if you look at the two of them, is Brad Pitt a good enough actor to portray another character? Well, yeah. He does it in every single movie. So could he portray another actor and as that actor do other movies? Well, I would say yes. I'm pretty sure that Benicio del Toro does not exist. All right, let us continue. Finbar says that is uncanny. Yep. Hey, we talk about death fakers a lot, and all these 33-year-olds dying and coming back with different names. Check this out. Some modern Muslim scholars believe that Jesus was crucified but didn't die, instead pretending to be dead, and was revived in the tomb later. in the same mortal body. So there are some Muslim scholars who believe that Jesus is an OG death faker. I find that very plausible for a few reasons, which we may get into. Again, COVID cured radical Islam. Radical Islamic terrorism is no longer a thing. They wanted nothing to do with the infidel virus, and they went back to wherever they came from, to their caves. Now that's interesting too. The terrorists come out of the caves. Bats come out of caves. Anyway, COVID came out of the cave. COVID cured the terrorism. And then Putin came along and he cured COVID. So what's going to cure Putin? Aliens, climate change, or nukes? I don't know why. Mr. Most Woke sent this to me. He says, I don't know why. It looks like an instance of archetypal transference. I don't know why either. Nothing explains the antics of Chicago's Mayor Lightfoot. But here Mayor Lightfoot is dressed up like a leprechaun. But she's been doing these costume gigs for a long time. She did that superhero costume. Was it a PPE man? Let's bring that up really quick. This mayor is so fun. I wish we had a cringe mayor like this. Mayor Lightfoot. I remember she came out with a superhero costume. Yeah, she also, oh yeah, Rona Destroyer. Dressed as a superhero, Rona Destroyer. She did this performance art piece. Another time I saw her come out with a horse, I believe. And she was the tax ranger. Like the Lone Ranger, and she came out to go collect taxes. I mean, all these gimmicks. Okay, here we go. Another example of the idea that show business and politics are just one and the same, and they share the same backstage. But the ones who aren't good enough for the movies.
Well, before we go, looks like trick-or-treating will be happening in Chicago this year. Yeah, that's Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot coming out in full costume, cape and mask as the Rona, as in Corona Destroyer, handing out candy to reporters and staff.
Handing out candy? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Super spreading, violating social distancing.
At her daily news conference, trick-or-treaters will be asked to stay in groups of 6 or fewer there, avoid sticking their hands into any candy bowls, and of course, wear a mask with a mask over your mask.
All right, wear a mask with a mask over your mask, like Brad Pitt and Benicio del Toro. Again, on the 23rd, we'll be watching Pete Davidson go into space. We did a little breakdown on the symbolism inherent in his tattoos. The 93, a reference to the New Age Horus. The Mars attacks alien, and he's about to go to space. He's had his head blown up on Mars. There's a lot there to unpack. The Boston bomber, Joker. His death penalty was reinstated the day that Batman was released, and he was friends with a friend of Howard Zinn. Musk challenged Putin to single-hand-to-hand combat after a Ukraine official called him, or no, a Russian official called him a little devil. Musk, little devil. They also called him weak. We discussed the significances of the Kraken symbolism today, and the Kraken killing Bezos on Inside Job on his mega yacht. The Kraken being released by Pluto Hades. Then we have this, of course, Pete Davidson going to space. His father was a 9/11 victim, burned in the towers. Might be significant. We'll look into that one as well. Going to space on Bezos' rocket, a competitor of Musk. So, what could go wrong? We discussed the symbolism of Horus, the age of Mars. And of course, let me bring this up really quick. So in the book of the law, or this is the Bible of the New Age, the Crowleyites, the Thelemites, it has this prophecy that the world, the New Age, would be announced. It'd be proclaimed by this prophet, the crowned conquering child, an androgen, who would tell the world what's up. That all the old religions would be torn down, the old ways would be burned, and they can build back better. The child androgen is the incarnated Horus. So the crown conquering child, in my view, has already emerged. The book is called Book of the Law, or Liber 418. 418, the number, adds to the great work. So the great work is their term, their phrase they use to describe bringing in the new age. So tearing it all down, all the progressivism, all the environmentalism, all the revolution, it's all part of the great work. The 9/11ing of America, the bringing down of this, it's all part of this, the tearing down the Tower of Babel. It's part of this, the great work. Now, I'm equating the great work with the great reset. And of course, the great reset and the great work are the same thing. We're talking about a new age, a green world order. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that when Greta shows up at the UN to announce the green world order, that we're actually hearing about the Greta reset, the great reset, the great work. That the child androgen was manifest as Greta Thunberg. And of course, the crown conquering child, crown, corona, even the name, I mean, there's stuff in the names here, but my main point is this. She pretty much fulfilled everything that Crowley said would be performed by this character emerging on the world stage. We were talking about this in the chat earlier today, about the symbolism, of course, of the Falcon rockets, Mars, and everything else. And the idea is that this new age represents the phasing out of the patriarchal sun god, the crucified, dying, and resurrecting sun god, and bringing in the child. All right, going through your comments, see if I've missed anything else. We will be back taking calls on the regular here very shortly. Again, I'm developing this new series. It's called Metascript Decodes, and you'll be hearing more about that. And if you get into the newsletter, you'll be the first to watch those videos before I list them. Okay, Musk challenging Putin to single-handed combat or single combat. We shall see. They've turned this thing into such a big joke. You know, how are they ever going to make this thing serious? I don't know. Tyrone says the Romans faked deaths like no other, the ancient Laurel Canyon. Yeah, I'm doing a whole 10-minute video on nothing but Laurel Canyon and the Manana Literary Club. There's quite a lot there when you look at the people involved. You got Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard. Hey, check this out. That Navy video that showed a TikTok-shaped alien or some kind of craft that moved very fast. It blew the minds of all those Navy guys. It was on Fox News. QAnoners were beside themselves, thinking that the Pleiadians were here to save them from the deep state. Yeah, it turns out it was a camera glare. A camera glare. Famous Navy UFO video was a camera glare. And look how they fell for it. But this is not uncommon. You know, there are entire YouTube channels, there are entire platforms, like people build their entire truther networks on stuff like this. Like there's that one guy, Crow 7777777, who does this second sun. He says that his camera, he sees the sun and he's able to find a second sun and sometimes a third. And they're obvious camera glares. And I'm thinking, here you are, a very experienced cameraman. You've got decades of experience and you're not able to discern a very basic amateur camera error. And you're going to misinterpret that to say, no, we got it wrong. It's not a heliocentric system. There's two suns, but nobody noticed until me, this anonymous guy on the internet. This is a nice article, How to Spot False Posts from Ukraine. And it has an image of Steven Seagal, because Joe Rogan saw this image and thought Steven Seagal was actually fighting the Russians. Here's how you spot fake news. Turn on the internet. I mean, it's quite literally that bad at this point. Again, it's Pi Day. Put pi up to a mirror, 314. and you can actually read PIE. Okay, again, the poll, it looks like climate change is winning. The poll between what's going to cure Putin, climate change beats aliens and nukes. It's 52 to 38 to 9%. And I sent a tweet out to Kanye. I said, make sure the gloves don't fit too well. Don't want to make this an open and shut case. So we'll be watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And is this going to be another O.J. Simpson? Okay, anyway, this has been great. Like I said, we are in the process of producing this Metascript Decode series. And once I get that back into, like once I'm 3 or 4 deep, then we'll be back on our nightlies, and I'll be releasing those daily. In each one will contain things worth discussing. I'm actually creating a separate mind map for every one of these 10-minute videos. And you'll see, because I think you'll see that we'll be able to finally systematize a lot of stuff. We've had so many channels taken down. We don't have an archive we can point to, but we will very, very soon. By the way, a few months ago, I got a track called Red to Green sent to me by Michael Keever. Red to Green, about this Marxist communist revolution disguised as saving the planet. Anyway, he sent me a new track, End Always Nigh. Anyway, this is from Michael Keever, and I'm going to put a link to this track below. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll be back very soon with a regular schedule. End Always Nigh.
No future sky always falling, hot air blowing, not the trumpets calling. War, pestilence and global warming, disaster never strike, just a constant warning. The hope killers, the fear readers, the doomsayers preaching for the dream weavers. No worries for the heathens, anxiety for believers. Always heading for Armageddon, no nukes to threat the real weapon. Future never bright when the ends, always nice, full seals and signs, and pitted all by design. John the Revelator, who that lie? No limit to the shit that they trying, no limit to the shit people buying. Remember 2012 and the Mayans, 2022 motherfuckers still scrying. End always nigh, look into the sky. End always nigh, impending doom by design. Every day a day of reckoning, you left the door open and you let them in. The fear peddling, the mind meddling, they pulled up a chair and they settled in. Only their illusions are beckoning, apocalypse on the people's lips. Condition for sci-fi disaster flicks, and the psychic sticks sticking to their clock, left holding the cock when the ball's gonna drop, waiting for the whiz bang pop, looking to the sky for a crash, ducking for cover but never under attack. When I be moving, gonna fade to black. What's gonna wipe us out? What's it gonna be? Whatever it is will come through on a screen. Masses manifest negativity, conspiracy on mainstream. Different tactics, same team, with different dreamers in the same dream, with different cows in the same herd, the two wings of the same bird. Fear the tool, the fuel, fueling the push and the pull, the intelligent, the fools carry it around like mules. End always nigh, look into the sky. End always nigh, impending doom by design. Alarming us, bombarding us, Nostradaming us, mentally disarming us, safe in the metaverse, energy farming us, and these cunts you trust. No currency with me, they're gone bust. Flimsy lies, all top and no crust.